Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another podcast episode 40 of the Money Heist 365 podcast. And we're still reading Think Yourself Rich by Dr. Joseph Murphy, clinical psychologist and theologian, who's been helping us map out the different ideas, the different ways in which we can tap into our subconscious mind to bring forth the things that we want in this life. And today's chapter is chapter 8, how to make and use a psychic treasure map. How to make and use a psychic treasure map. And I'm going to start off with three quotations in this particular reading here, because that's just how the book is laid out. The first quotation goes, "The soul without imagination is what an observatory would be without a telescope." The second one is, "Imagination dispossesses of everything. It creates beauty, justice, happiness, which are everything in this world." And the last one by William Shakespeare, "The poet's eye in a fine frenzy rolling doth glance from heaven to earth, earth to heaven, and as imagination bodies forth the forms of things unknown, the poet's pen tends them to shape, and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. Such tricks had strong imagination." Right, so that's how the chapter starts off as I begin to read. Now, imagination is one of the most powerful faculties. Disciplined, controlled, and directed imagination is a mighty instrument that plumbs the depths of our subconscious mind, bringing forth new inventions, discoveries, poems, music, and an awareness of the riches of the air, the sea, and the earth. Scientists, artists, musicians, physicists, inventors, and poets, writers in general, possess highly developed imaginative faculties which draw forth from the treasure house of their subconscious the riches of the infinite and bless humankind in countless ways. Here's the first subheading of the chapter, how a treasure map brought her riches and companionship. Recently, I performed a marriage ceremony for a young woman named Amanda R. I had first met Amanda, an account executive with a public relations firm. About 6 months earlier, she was concerned that her firm was in difficulties and that her life was not developing in the direction she would like. After our conversation, she drew up for herself a treasure map. It was divided into 4 parts. In the first section, she wrote, "I give thanks for God's wealth flowing freely in my life." In the second, she wrote, "I give thanks for a trip around the world." In the third, she wrote, "I give thanks for a wonderful, spiritually minded man who harmonizes with me perfectly." And in the last one, she wrote, "I give thanks for a beautiful, harmonious home." Under these 4 requests, she wrote, "I give thanks for the immediate fulfillment of all these requests in divine order through divine love." Every morning, afternoon, and evening, she contemplated her requests. She affirmed and visualized their fulfillment as vividly as possible. She knew that gradually these images would be written to her subconscious mind, which would bring them to pass. The answer to her first request came in about a month's time. Her great nan in New York bequeathed over $150,000 worth of securities in her will. 2 days after her firm closed, putting her out of work, her parents in Canada invited her to take a trip with them around the world. While in Tokyo, she met a scientist from near San Francisco, as she said it was, and she said it was love at first sight. Her marriage took on their return to California. They are now living in his beautiful hillside home with a magnificent view of the Pacific Ocean. Amanda told me that she never doubted writing out a treasure map would work. She implicitly trusted the infinite intelligence of the subconscious mind to aid her in visualizations. She obtained a passport, selected a tour from a travel brochure, and a ring on her finger, which meant to her that she was already married to a wonderful man. Amanda's method helped her gain control over her thinking and imagination. This enabled her to have dominion over her financial affairs while at the same time bringing fulfillment in her love life and field of expression. Next subheading, his imagination brought about a legal settlement. I was on a visit to the tall ruins of the Chichen center of the ancient Mayan civilization when I met an attorney from Texas named Doug M. As we talked, he confided that his vacation was likely to be the least peaceful moment for him for quite a while. Waiting for him back in Dallas was a case that involved a very large estate and a number of quarreling relatives of the deceased. He had been engaged by one member of the family who hoped to bring peace and harmony and avoid a long, expensive lawsuit. I did have better luck marrying a coonhound to a wildcat than getting the honorary bunch to agree on anything, he said, despairingly. I have a suggestion, I replied. Give imaginative prayer therapy a try. Give imaginative prayer therapy a try. What is that? Well, he said, project yourself mentally into your firm's conference room. Visualize in Dallas. All the members of the family are there. Now claim with complete faith that harmony and peace, understanding operate among them. Imagine your client telling you, we have agreed to respect the terms of the will as written and not to contest it in court. Do that every night at bedtime and lure yourself to sleep with the words happy ending. Doug seemed intrigued by my suggestion. I'm ready to try anything he said. When I returned from Mexico, I found a letter waiting postmarked Dallas. In it, Doug wrote, I tried prayer therapy as you suggested. When the family conference came along, I walked in secure in my conviction of a harmonious solution. Sure enough, the most contentious family members had thought it over and decided to abide by the will. We avoided a nasty court battle, and I might add, I received a handsome fee as well as everybody's thanks. The next subheading, how a Mexican guide uses his imagination in his other career. Omal is one of the major archaeology sites in Mexico. It lies on the Merid Campeche Highway, slightly over an hour by car from the capital of Yucatan. The guide who drove me there was named Porfirio, I'm not so, let's just go and say Porfirio G, right? He told me that his real calling, which he exercises mostly during quiet periods when there are not so many tourists, is that of a dossier and a water diviner. When a landowner asks him to find water, he visits the ranch and walks around holding a bent piece of copper wire. As he covers the territory, he talks to his arm saying, you will get firm and red when we are near water. The copper wire will point to the exact spot where the water is. It almost always works, Porfirio added. When I fail, it is because I am tired and I do not concentrate enough. Porfirio took several very detailed topographic maps from the door pocket of the car. I can doze with these too. Two, he said. When a ranchero has lost some cattle, I think very hard about the lost animals. Then I pass the copper rod over the map and it tells me where they may be. Porfirio's income from dozing has allowed him to work toward a degree at a local university. He hopes soon to be appointed as an instructor in archaeology. All of the Yucatan is rich in Mayan ruins that have been covered over by the jungle, he said excitedly. I intend to search for them with my copper wire, and I am sure I will find them, just as I find water and lost cattle. One day, all the world will marvel at the achievements of our distant ancestors. Next subheading. He was tapping the riches already in his subconscious. When Porfirio was still a child, his father told him that he had inherited the gift of dozing. The boy believed him. Because the subconscious is amenable to suggestion, so very much it believes anything that you plant into it, right? And is controlled by suggestion, His subconscious responded according to his belief. The subconscious mind is coextensive with all wisdom and intelligence. It sees all and knows all. It knows where water is or gold or lost livestock or ancient ruins. For the whole world came up in the universal subconscious. When Porphyrio walks in an area where water is, his belief and his definite command to his subconscious mind bring about a constriction of the muscles of his arm that cause that wire to point to the spot to dig. The wire is nothing more than an encouraging prop. He could just as effectively use a tree limb, a crystal, or a ring, or anything else he believes will work. I complimented Porphyrio on his dedication and wished him all the success. I also suggested that he might improve his technique by frequently telling his subconscious mind, when I reach the spot, I will know exactly how many feet deep the source of the water is. According to his belief, it is done unto him. The next subheading, the law of constructive imagining overcame her discouragement, right? So this is a new law that's been introduced. I hope you're keeping track of the law of the mind, the law of opulence, the law of success. We've got the law of constructive imagining. The law of constructive imagining overcame her discouragement. I first met Virginia B a few years ago, and at that time, she was a successful media buyer for an advertising agency and happily married to an attorney. The next time we met, she was depressed, dejected, and discouraged. She told me her husband had suffered a fatal stroke a year earlier, shortly after she retired from her agency. Since then, she had been trying without any success to sell her house. The upkeep and the expenses of it were too much for her to handle. She had put down a binder on a charming apartment in a nearby retirement community, but unless she could find a buyer for her house very quickly, she would lose the apartment and forfeit her deposit. I told Virginia she would put her imagination to work and explain how to do it. Each night, remember, we're learning about the law of constructive imagining. So here it is. Each night before going to sleep, she would imagine a check in her hand for the full price of her home. In a controlled imagination, she would deposit it into the bank with a great feeling of inner satisfaction. After this, she was to visualize as vividly and as concretely as possible going to a new apartment and getting ready for bed as she drifted off to sleep in a new bedroom. She was to say, thank you, Father, for the fulfillment of my prayer in divine order. Just give me 10 seconds. I want to highlight a couple of things. I'll tell you what I'm highlighting because I think it's important. So number one, we know the routine about going to sleep and having these things as your last thought. We know about the meditation routine. We now know about the fact that we must use our conscious brain to inscribe what we want to our subconscious mind. What is new in this paragraph under the law of constructive imagination, excuse me, I'm still not feeling well, getting better though, every day I'm getting better and better, right? And I can actually feel it. Right, now what's interesting is so it says here, she would put her imagination to work, right? Remember, this is the law of constructive imagination, right? And each night she'd go to sleep and imagine the check, and it says in her controlled imagination. You get to control the visualization. That's very important. You have to construct it, you have to control it, you have to see it through. You get to eliminate all the negativity in it, right? Because it's a controlled imagination. She would deposit the money in the bank, here's the next part, and create a great feeling of inner satisfaction. So she's imagining it that she's already got the money and she's deposited the money, and you know the feeling you'd get from that satisfaction. She needed to have that every night before it happened, right? After this, she would then visualize as vividly and as concretely as possible. Controlled imagination, clear visualizations. When I visualize about money, I'm not visualizing about the word money. I have clear figures, clear amounts. I want $100, like very clear, and I know what it looks like in my currency in rands. I know what that looks like. I visualize an SMS from my bank sometimes, an OTP coming through. I am very clear visualizations. Going to a new apartment, getting ready for bed. As she drifted off to sleep in a new bedroom, and she would say the words, thank you, Father, for the fulfillment of my prayer and in divine order. Right, moving on. Virginia followed this procedure for 3 consecutive nights. On the morning of the fourth day, the realtor who was listening to Hope called her. An executive who had just been transferred from East Coast was looking for something like her house and needed to close a deal immediately. The broker and the prospective buyer came over an hour later. By mid-afternoon, the sale had been concluded. Truly, imagination has been called the workshop of God. Einstein said imagination is greater than knowledge. What you can imagine and feel to be true will come to pass. Imagination clothes your ideas and projects them from the screen of space. Be faithful to the mental image in your mind and you will find it one day manifested in reality. Right? This is the whole point of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and the whole point of our affirmation goals is the fact that we need to learn to pair this with our imagination. Once again, truly, imagination has been called the workshop of God. Einstein said imagination is greater than knowledge. What you can imagine and feel to be true will come to pass. You got to emotionalize these things. Right, there has to be an emotion, you have to feel it, there has to be real. Like the satisfaction of achieving those goals that you imagine, the feeling must start now. Right, will come to pass. Imagination clothes your ideas and projects them on the screen of space into matter, into reality. Right, be faithful to the mental image in your mind and you'll find it one day manifested in reality. The next subheading is how an actress' imagination overcame a sense of frustrating competition. Mona V is a beautiful and talented actress, but when I meet her, she had been out of work for 6 months. She told me she was in the running for a wonderful part in the movie. There were also 3 other excellent actresses being considered. After the auditions, she was sure the part was made for her, but she was not sure the producers would realize it. If you don't land this part, she said, if I don't land this part, she said, I don't know what I'll do. This could be a big step forward, or it could be the end of my career. You must be careful, I advised her. The thought of competition engenders anxiety and tension, which clouds the working of your subconscious mind. In any case, it is always possible that you don't get the cast for reasons that have nothing to do with your own abilities. I went on to offer this suggestion. She should regularly declare with faith and confidence, I give thanks for my perfect expression at the highest level in divine law and order. I accept my role in this film or something grander, greater, or more wonderful for me, according to the riches of the infinite in God's action. Man, it's a little bit far for me to reach, but the first book that we did in this podcast was The Science of Getting Rich, and there's an entire chapter of never trying to compete. We don't compete, we create. We don't compete, we create, right? And this is coming up now by a different author, right? That be very careful. The thought of competition, right? The thought of competition engenders anxiety and tension, which clouds the working of your subconscious mind, right? Then I suggested she release the whole thing to her subconscious mind. Whenever the thought of the movie contract came to her, she must tell herself infinite intelligence is taking care of that. Mona was not cast for that part, for the part she had been so concerned about. Shortly afterwards, however, she received a wonderful offer, far more wonderful and exciting than the one she had desired originally. Her career has taken off in a totally unexpected direction. Whenever you are faced with what you believe to be competition for a job or an assignment, persist in a simple procedure. Prepare yourself to receive an answer that will surprise and delight you. The next subheading, the marvelous power of a master image. The marvelous power of a master image. Your dominant or master image, remember earlier on in the previous chapters, it was always the dominant idea, the dominant belief system in you. Now, same concept, he's saying your dominant or master image controls all phases of your life. Your subconscious accepts the dominant of 2 ideas, right? You go be a graphic designer for a software company in Los Angeles, visited with me for an hour about 5 years ago. He and his wife had 2 teenage sons. His wife could not work because of severe allergies made worse by the air pollution in Los Angeles. He earned a good salary, but it was not good enough to support them adequately. They lived in a small bungalow in a run-down area and made do only with 1 car, a 5-year-old economy model that was constantly breaking down. I explained to Hugo how to use his imagination constructively. At my suggestions, he wrote down, "I claim God's riches now," and my subconscious responds, "I claim health, contentment, and a beautiful home for my family. My wife, my 2 boys, and I each need our own car," and my subconscious brings these requests to pass. Promotion is mine, success is mine. I give thanks for the fulfillment of all this work. Hugo and his wife made it a habit to mentally picture a spacious house and a lovely yard in an area with clean air and friendly neighbors. They also pictured a garage with 4 cars before going to sleep each night. Hugo conveyed a message to his subconscious as follows: "I am ever grateful for God's riches, forever active, forever present, unchanging and eternal. I give thanks for my promotion and outstanding success." For 3 months, nothing happened, but Hugo and his wife persevered with total confidence. Then shortly after he was promoted to the head of his department, the company was bought out by a major software firm. Hugo's stock options were suddenly worth several $1,000,000. Moreover, the company's operations were transferred to Austin, Texas, where the air is clear, and he was able to buy a lovely spacious home with a big yard for not much more than he received for a sale in his bungalow in Los Angeles. His wife's allergies have stopped bothering her, and their sons drive to the new high school in their own sporty little cars. And finally, the final meditation of today's chapter, meditation for effective imagination, the workshop of God for all good. Where there is no vision, the people perish, right? That's in Proverbs 29:18. My vision is that I desire to know more of God and the way He works. My vision is for perfect health, harmony, and peace. My vision is the inner faith that the infinite Spirit leads and guides me now in all ways. I know and believe that God, power within me, answers my prayer. This is the deep conviction within me. I know that the mental picture to which I remain faithful will be developed in my subconscious mind and come forth on the screen of space. I make it daily practice to imagine for myself and others only that which is noble, wonderful, and godlike. I now imagine that I am doing the thing I long to do. I imagine that I now possess the things I long to possess. I imagine I am what I long to be. I make it real. I feel the reality of it. I know what it is. Thank you, Father. And ladies and gentlemen, as usual, I would just like to leave you with the last key points of the chapter written by the author. So these are just summary points of what we've just discussed. Number 1, the soul without imagination is what an observatory would be like without a telescope. Imagination is the primary faculty of man, and it has the capacity to bring your idea into visibility on the screen of space. Number 2, you can draw up for yourself a treasure map listing the cherished desires of your heart. Go over it several times a day, claiming and imagining the fulfillment of each desire. Preserve, and you will find that the images will be deposited into your subconscious, right, which will bring them to pass. Number 3, if you're apprehensive and worried about the outcome of a conference or legal controversy, quiet your mind and claim that harmony, peace, and divine understanding operate in the minds and in the hearts of all involved. Select the person who gave you the assignment and imagine she's telling you of the harmonious agreement and hear it over and over again. Lower yourself into a deep sleep with the phrase happy ending. You will succeed in impregnating the solution in your subconscious, and there will be divine agreement. And this can work for any part of your life, relationships, just happy ending, your relationship, a happy ending. Just focus on that. Number 4, a guide. A strong in the conviction that he inherited the capacity of dozing, convinced his subconscious mind that whenever he walked around an area where water was, His arm would become red and the wire in his hands would point to the exact spot. His subconscious responded to his conviction with successful, divinations. Number 5, if you have trouble selling a home, imagine you are holding the check for the full payment in your hand prior to sleep. Give thanks for the check, feel its reality, the naturalness and the wonder of it all, and imagine yourself at the tailor window depositing it. Give thanks to your higher self and you'll find wonders happening as you pray. Number 6, when you're competing with others for a contract, assignment, or position, avoid anxiety and tension by affirming, I accept this assignment or something far more wonderful according to the riches of the infinite for me. Like people with job applications, right? There could be a better thing waiting for you out there. If you don't get that particular position, something far more wonderful will open up for you in the light of your higher self. Number 7, even though your reason and sense deny the possibility of your attaining riches, promotion, and success, persist in your master image for success and financial independence. Your master image will sink down into your subconscious mind and come to pass. Whoever perseveres will be crowned. And the last one, number 8, make full use of the meditation at the end of the chapter to help develop a greater use of the imagination of a richer life in every way. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our chapter for today, chapter 8 by Dr. Murphy. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to share it on Spotify. It's available on all platforms. Until next time, see you again. Peace.